What's up, everybody? We are back with another Ask Tim. I had to push things back because apparently meetings this week just keep happening like at the same time of the stream. Been trying to do streams at 2 o'clock, so I'm not, getting streams pushing into past a work day, but hey, maybe I'll push it back to 3. I don't know. We'll see. We're getting a decent amount of viewers here. I feel like we get more later in the day. Why is my... Okay, I think I was just saying things like I thought my video was looking weird. Probably just me. Anyways, the giveaway form is open right now. So if you guys go to giveaway.th3dstudio.com, you can go ahead and enter to win. We give away a $150 gift card this month to the TH3D shop, so you can get some awesome parts for your printer. Now, the way these streams work is you guys have to ask questions. We got up to an hour for you guys to poke and prod me, and I will try to answer your 3D printing questions. And for all of you guys that have been leaving comments on the damn videos and our emails and Twitter and whatever about the SVO3, it's done. Okay? You can stop bugging me. Even as much as it pains me, even with the stock BL Touch probe, and it's all set up. I even measured the offsets for you and entered them into the firmware so you don't have to. It's all pre-set up. And we can see how long it takes for a BL Touch to probe. So SVO3 firmware with the stock board is done. I pushed it up to our testing branch, which will be in version 2.36. I am debating if I want to update the Marlin base from 2091 to 2092. I think 2092 is one I just downloaded, so that came out like 20 days ago. 2091 is what we are on right now, as far as I remember. I think it's 2091. But yeah, so this is on the stock board. I will put configs for it in the EasyBoard V1 and V2 firmwares as well, because the EasyBoard V1 and V2 will work with the SVO1. The LCD on this one, at least on mine, has the EXP3 header, so you don't actually need the dual cable LCD board. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Now, Soval uses a lot of Creality parts. They actually use a Creality board, which I'll be able to show you because the bottom is off on this right now. So, boom, ArmCam 1. As you can see here, TH3D, BL Touch ready. Yeah, so it's all working just fine. I ran a test print off. Here's the Cali Cat that came off of it. Not bad. Tiny bit, maybe a tiny bit under, oh dear God. Why is my phone going crazy? My apologies. Tiny bit under extruded on here, but overall not a bad print for this machine. This machine's completely stock. So, but yeah, if I go under here, don't lose the filament spool. I'm going to go this way. If I go under here, you can see. Where's my... Hang on. Just a moment. I need a third hand. You can see there is a Creality board in here. This is I think it's a 221 with the Trinamics on here. So, and then for the LCD... You can see what I mean by the EXP3 header. So you got your EXP1, your EXP2, and the 3. So like if you're using this screen with like our EasyBoard or another board that's like a Creality one that uses a single cable like the SKR E3 Mini or whatnot, you can use this header here instead of both of these cables. So the 2560 boards use the dual cables, as you can see down here, because they go right in there. But yeah. Not a bad little machine. I like the SVO1. We have 2 of them here in our print farm. They've been a good bang for the buck. So I'm probably going to end up selling this to a buddy of mine locally because we have no use for it. And he literally messaged me. He's like, hey, you got a machine that's larger than an Ender 3 that has auto bed leveling? And I was like, I actually might. I just got to finish doing firmware on it. So now that that's done and it's working, he's probably going to pick it up. I just got to find the bottom plate, which is probably in my garage. All right. There we go. Nice big table. Look how deep this table is. Like, there goes the filament. That's going to be tangled. No. All right. I'm gonna cut this real quick. Hang on. But anyways, let's see. I did want to show you guys my new table because I don't think I really showed how big this is. Because it's fantastic. Let's see. So look how deep this thing is. Like, it's the same length as my old one, but we've got 36 inches of depth here. I think it's 36. Let's see. My old one was like 20. Yeah, right here. We're at 3 feet deep. So for bigger machines that would flop off the side of the bed and stuff, this is so much better. And it's like, it's sturdy. The other one I had was like a folding table. Now there is a little bit of give to this, but there's not much. And I think my favorite thing, on this, which I haven't utilized yet, but I will in the future, is check this out. You guys, well, there's Remo's butt, but do you guys see what's in the legs there? Do you see what those are? I know somebody's gonna know what those are. And we also have a shelf. It comes with a little shelf, and they make other stuff. This is from Uline, by the way. This is one of their packing tables, and they've got all sorts of tops for them. Yeah, it has knockouts for outlets. Like, you can literally wire outlets into this table. So I have a power strip, like, strapped to the side of this right now. But I'm going to actually wire some outlets. You just put, like, you know, your boxes on the back, and yeah, just like a 1-gang box to protect the outlet. It's fantastic. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. My childhood's dead because I'm getting excited over a damn table. But hey, this is life when you get old. I'm 32, you know. So anyways, would you guys be up for a stream this weekend? Like, maybe not this weekend, like Friday. Would you guys be up for a Friday stream with the Ender 2 Pro? What do you guys think? Thinking Friday. I'm trying not to work on the weekends. So, you know, I've been trying to have a social life again. Yeah, thinking Friday. Friday work. I'm thinking like later in the day. Probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5. I wanted to go a little bit later on Fridays because I do enjoy the printer streams. Like, yes, it's work, but I do actually enjoy them. So I'm willing to dig deep. It's not like I have anything going on Friday. So, yeah, I'll try to get that scheduled because I really want to dig in that printer. I do have an update on the EasyBoard V2s. So there was a slight issue with the stencil, or not the stencil, what's the word I'm looking for? The footprint of the driver pad. So we ran a bunch off, and the 2209s, like, we were getting like shorts on some of them. Turns out Trinamic never updated the libraries. Let me get the actual exact wording from my engineer here. So on the 2209s, on the chip package, they made the center pad larger, which is where it sinks the heat through, and pulled the pins outward towards the edge a little bit. So the issue is that they did this, Trinamic did this, and the provided footprint that you use to make the PCBs was not updated in like Eagle. So what happened was we ran a bunch of boards, and the boards were showing shorts on the 12/24 volt rail because of this pad difference. So we've had new PCBs made, and they're going to make the boards now with the new updated footprint. So Griffin actually had to make a custom footprint to match the updated footprint on the 2209. So, and this is something I never even noticed, and I've had 2209 bare chips and 2208 bare chips in my parts bin, and like at first glance you can't tell, and we didn't have any issues on the prototypes. So it's like, you know, what's going on? But we figured it out. They said, so he sent me this on Monday. He said they got the Rush PCBs and started production on them last night. We are still pushing to ship before the end of the month. So yeah, that's where we're at. But anyways, we were worried that we had a batch of bad drivers. So like I got the message from him. He's like, yeah, they're showing shorts. I was like, so do we get a batch of bad drivers from Trinamic? What's going on? So luckily, no, all the drivers are good. No drivers were harmed because they found the fault before actually powering them on. So obviously if there's a short, you don't want to power them on. But hopefully maybe that'll help somebody else out if they're doing stuff with 2209s. Make sure that the footprint you're using for the actual driver is the updated one. Because the 2209s and 2208s, even though they're kind of compatible, they're not. So, but let's get into the Q&A here. All right, where is all my stuff? I have a million windows open. I am sorry. All right, so hopefully now that I've been rambling for 13 minutes, you guys have posted questions in the chat that I can answer. And I am still on the Mythic Melon from Ma. So, shameless plug here. This is literally my favorite energy drink. And it's way more convenient than trying to stock up on freaking cans of Monster or whatever. And it's water. Just mix it with water. All right, so Sean Collins, his first question he says, hi Tim, I'm having problems with a nut and bolt like prints that don't fit together. I have calibrated E-steps. What am I missing? So if your E-steps are calibrated, and I'm very bad, I do initial calibrations if I'm dealing with a new extruder. I don't actually calibrate E-steps on my printers every single time. Now, you can do that, but I generally know, like, this extruder is 95. That extruder is 410, you know, etc. If you have issues where the nut and bolt, you know, I know what you're talking about. You got the two pieces and they thread on and they're not fitting together. So the question is, when they're not fitting together, are they too loose or do they not go on because they're too large? Now, one thing you could check if your E-steps are calibrated, the other thing you could check is check the diameter of the filament and see if it runs big or small and how it is throughout the roll. So most filaments, you're going to have plus or minus 0.05 millimeters of the tolerance is the word I'm looking for, of tolerances on the filament. So meaning the filament you get is either going to be from 1.7 millimeters up to 1.8, you know, 0.05 tolerance. Like for example, coaxes, that's their minimum. They typically run about 0.03. I have had some go, you know, 0.04, 0.05, but in general, most of your stuff is going to be in that 0.05. Now, the thing is, if it's running bigger, and you're printing parts that have tight tolerances, then you could be over extruding just enough depending on how tight those tolerances are. And this is something you should take into consideration when you're designing parts. So like when we design parts that are going to be printed, we take that into consideration that there will be variances in the machine. So we usually try to make the tolerances a little bit looser so we can, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, expect that they're going to come out no matter if I'm running them on like our Ender 3 or Solval, because like every printer is going to have a slightly different tolerance. And the thing to keep in mind is on most of your FDM machines, regardless of the brand, baking in about a 0.2 millimeter tolerance on the X and Y dimensions is not a bad idea, because most of your FDM printers, that's where you're going to fall on the tolerance scale, is about 0.2 millimeters on the X and Y, meaning it could run big or small by 0.2 millimeters. So the other thing you can check is just try dropping your like your flow rate down on the, you can either do it on the printer while it's printing, like if you have an LCD, I'll even show you here. considering I have one sitting right here, I don't think I'll be able to do it while it's not printing. Let me check. Hang on. It's been a while since I messed with it on the screen here. I don't think I can do it while it's not printing. No, I can't. So when your printer's printing, if you have Marlin, I'm sure it's on other ones, there's a setting called flow that you can adjust, and that is how much filament's coming out of the nozzle. So if your flow is at 100, it's going to extrude 100% of the material that's been commanded to be extruded by the extruder as it's going through and printing. Now, if you drop that down to like 90, it's only going to move 90% of what is called for in the G code. So if things are running too big, you can back that off and make it extrude less material, which then should give you a little more tolerance or a little more wiggle room if things are coming out too tight. Now, you could also, and this is what I would mess with, you could also change the extrusion multiplier in your slicer. Now, all the slicers, they might have a different term for it. I use Simplify 3D still, and there's a setting called the extrusion multiplier. Now, for example, for most of my PLA prints on most of my machines, I usually run about a 0.9 to 0.96 extrusion multiplier for PLA. For ABS, I use a 1 to 1.1 depending on the machine, and PETG, I can be anywhere from 1 to 1.1 as well. Now, if your parts are coming out and they're like a little over extruded, or you have filament that's running bigger, you can drop the extrusion multiplier down. And the inverse is true too. If you have filament that's running a little small, you can bump the extrusion multiplier up to compensate for the filament being a little bit smaller of a diameter. So it's all about playing with the settings. Ideally, though, the part you're printing with might just be a part, and I've had these happen before when I've downloaded stuff from Thingiverse, that the designer just didn't leave enough wiggle room to be printed on an FDM printer, you know? So there is a certain responsibility on the designers putting stuff out to take that in consideration that, hey, these are going to be printed on an FDM machine, and there's certain things that you have to take in consideration when you're printing with an FDM printer. So the TLDR is play with your flow rate on your filament, whether that's on the actual printer side itself or the extrusion multiplier in your slicer. So basically E-steps, once you have your E-steps set, you shouldn't be messing with those. I do a lot of tuning, whether things are coming out over extruded or under extruded. Like for example, this little Cali cat here, you can see his head is a little bit under extruded. I know my E-steps are correct on this printer for this extruder. They're close enough. So if I wanted to close this gap, what I could do in my slicer is bump up the extrusion multiplier just a little bit, maybe like 5%, run it again and see how it comes out. There's a lot of playing with. I'm really a big fan of like these small test prints like the Cali Cat, or there's also Cali Dog, because they do have like overhangs and angles, and you can get a kind of idea pretty quickly. I think it's like, I don't know, 15, 20 minute print of where your machine's sitting in terms of your slicer settings. So you can kind of tune it in on that. Let's see. Who is the next one? Uh-oh. Chat jumped again. I say Jonathan. Jonathan is back. I missed you, man. I was gone for a little bit too. All right. So James Howard says, for some reason my new BTT board has my head purging and starting prints off the bed. Can anyone help with that? So the first thing, if someone tells me, okay, I put a new board in my printer and it's purging, so I'm assuming you have some sort of purge line in your starting script and your prints are starting off the bed. So the first thing you want to check is, one, make sure you have the correct bed size, so the XY dimensions, correct bed size set in the firmware. If you're replacing the firmware for your board, don't use the firmware that comes on it, because you don't know what these manufacturers are doing, and especially the Chinese manufacturers, they have no idea what they're doing half the time. You know, you should always be compiling your own firmware, so you know that the settings are correct, and you should become familiar with it. So anyways, check your bed dimensions. That's not going to cause it to purge off the bed, but it's something you need to check to make sure it's correctly entered, and then make sure the printer can actually move that distance on the X and Y. Now, on some printers, when it homes X and Y, okay, so you have a printer, and let's just use this as an example since I have it sitting here. I should just keep like a printer that is working on the bench here, just for the streams, you know. There we go. So when you have your printer, okay, so I'm gonna home X here. So it'll go and hit the end stop, okay? And depending on the machine and the model, you may or may not be off the bed when it comes to the nozzle. So if you see here on this machine, this is the Soval SV03, you can see very clearly that the nozzle is on the bed, okay? Now, on some printers, the nozzle, when it homes, will be hanging off the side of the bed, and it might be a couple millimeters. So in the firmware, you're going to need to set a setting that tells the firmware, okay, when my end stop, my X or Y end stop gets touched, the nozzle's actually still like 5 millimeters off the bed. So you could measure it and see how much it needs to move on. So you could go in the firmware and then tell the firmware, hey, when the end stop on X is being pressed, my nozzle's actually 5 millimeters off the bed. So you then tell it that, you know, your X min setting, so depending on if you're, well, yeah, it'd be your X min setting, would be like -5. And same thing for Y. So if you home Y and Y is off the bed, then you would tell it as well that, hey, I have an offset for Y. So I'm just going to tell it to home Y really quick. And on this machine, the nozzle's on the bed in both directions. So there's no offset on this one. But if I home these and the nozzle was like right here, then I would need to tell it that, hey, when you home, your nozzle's actually not going to be on the bed. And you need to tell the firmware that, because otherwise what will happen is it will start printing off the bed, and it will also throw things off. Like if you have an auto bed leveling probe, it's not going to take that into account when it builds the mesh. So you could even be probing off the bed on certain sides. And that's just a setting. Now, if you're using Marlin, I haven't messed with RepRap firmware in a while, or Clipper. I'm sure they all have this setting, but in Marlin, it'll be the X-min POS. So X_min_POS. I believe that's it. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to double check. It's been a while since I was working on source code today. But I believe it's X-min POS. I think Scott's watching. Scott would definitely know. Yeah, it's X-min POS. So, and I'll show you here. Let me just close out my chat clients here. I don't need shit popping up while I'm streaming. Main monitor. All right, so this is the TH3D firmware, and we actually have a setting in here. Oh my god. Hang on, I'm just gonna turn my phone off so this doesn't like do shit. All right, so in our firmware here, in the TH3D firmware, which depending on what Big Tree Tech board is you're using, we do have firmware for some of the Big Tree Tech boards right now, but we have an option called the what is it, the home adjust right here. So home adjust. So you can see here we've got like an explanation, and you just uncomment this and you put in your adjustment. So like, okay, where's my X home location? Oh, it's -5, so I'm going to do -5, and maybe my Y, there is none. And it can be inverse. It really depends on your printer. You know, like the ANET A8, that one has settings that need to be set. So like, just for an example, if I go and look in the firmware here, you'll see I've got code here that if this is enabled, we're going to use the settings here. But you can see by default, I have a 0 position set for the X-min POS. So if you're using regular Marlin, so like if I pull up the stock Marlin files here, so this is the version of Marlin this is built on. If I just search X-min POS, you'll see here travel limits in millimeters after homing corresponding to end stop position. So if you're using Marlin, it's the same thing. You just have to manually enter them in here, along with all of your other printer variables. So that's how you would prevent it from running off the bed. And it's that simple. So just double check, and like when I'm building firmware for a printer, I'm checking all these things to make sure that I'm getting things as close to as possible, so people don't have issues like that where their printer is, you know, purging off the side of the bed. I take all that into consideration when I am building firmware configs for people and putting it out. That's one of the reasons I like to actually have the printers here that we are putting firmware out for, which means we have to buy the printers even though we don't need them. Like this one's literally going to get sold to a friend of mine because I have no use for it. We've got like, I don't know, 50 or 60 printers at this point. I honestly have no idea how many printers we have because they come and go, and yeah. But this is why I like to get my hands on the printers and why I put the time in to make sure that the firmware actually works on the machine we're putting out firmware, because little things like that can create a really bad user experience. If people are downloading firmware and they're like, well, I put the TH3D firmware on there and now it's like my prints are hanging off the bed, that's a bad experience. Now, the other thing to note is if you change your hot end setup, like if you put a direct drive kit on there, you put, a different carriage on there, something that moves the nozzle from the stock location, you may lose space on your bed in terms of printing area and change your homing position. So like I've seen some mounts for like the Creality CR10 and the Ender 3 for like the E3D V6 hot ends where the nozzles actually move forward 10 millimeters. So when you home, it's now hanging off the bed. And not only do you need to now tell the firmware that you have a -10 homing position on the Y, but you also then need to change your bed size from 300, using the CR10 for an example, we're losing 10 on Y. I need to now tell my printer firmware that I only have 290 now on Y because I lost 10 millimeters, because most of the time when you move your head outside of the original bounds of where the factory nozzle location was, you are losing build area. So you have to keep that in mind when you're putting modifications on your printer. If you're moving the nozzle from the stock location, you're probably going to lose build area and you need to update your firmware accordingly, because what will happen is, these printers are dumb. If you lose build area and you don't change it in the firmware and you go to do a print that's going to use the whole bed that was the original build area, but you can't address anymore, your head's just going to ram right into the frame of the printer and lose steps, and it's just going to mess your whole print up. So ask me how I know. I've done this a few times, or I just forget sometimes, like, oh, I need to double check this, especially on like custom built machines that I've done for myself. You want to make sure that when you're done building your printer and you're done doing all the firmware, move it to all of its extreme locations. Make sure that you can actually address the full area on X and the full area on Y without it colliding with anything. Because if it does collide, what you need to do then is move it up until right before be colliding with something, and then move it 1 millimeter at a time and be like, oh, okay, I can only go 295 on Y instead of 300. And then update your slicer, update your firmware, so you don't have issues, because it's one of those things that you're not going to really think about it in the moment if you don't do it until you're wondering, why is my printer ramming its head into the frame? It shouldn't be doing this. Well, it's because the firmware is not set up correctly. So, yeah, hopefully I can save you guys some pain and suffering, because there's been times where I've forgotten that, and I'm very well aware of it and stuff I like to check because I've had that happen to me in the past, and now it's just something I do when I'm building firmware for a printer, whether it's a custom machine or I'm just putting out something to, make the stock printers more usable. Let's see. R Mills, that table needs a TH3D logo burned into it. I let Sean, one of our shop techs, he's borrowing the laser right now, but I got to pull up my emails, but supposedly another company is supposed to be sending me one of those lasers because they saw that we did the Atom Stack one, and they're like, hey, you want to check out ours? Like, sure, send it over. I just wish I had more time to play with that stuff. But anyways, so where's the next one? Summer Conductor, have you looked at the E3D Revo hot end system? I have. I don't have it, but it looks pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about it. I'll probably end up getting them. I want to look into refreshing our lineup and start adding different options for hot ends and kind of discontinue the like V6 style we have right now. Not there's anything wrong with the one we have is a really good low cost hot end, but the new Revo system, while I do have my complaints about it, in terms of it being like, it's more user-friendly, but I guess when you get more user-friendly, you do have to make some compromises on like, not being able to replace your thermistor and heater it's part of the block, but it simplifies things. There's trade-offs. But I think it is a good system. I think it's going to save people a lot of trouble because the heat break and the nozzle are all one piece, so there's no more, oh my God, I'm getting filament leaking between the nozzle and the heat break. I haven't had that in a while, but for new people, that's a very frustrating problem. So let's see. Carol is asking, I can't find information on connecting my Ender 3 via or to my Mac via USB. Can anybody help me with that? So there's nothing special about a Mac. You might have to download some drivers. Your Ender 3 is either going to use, depending on what board is in it, is either going to use the FT232R drivers or the CH340 drivers. Both of them can be found on our website at support.th3dstudio.com under the drivers. The biggest thing you're going to have an issue with is probably needing the drivers. Once you get the drivers on there, you should be able to talk to it. My preferred thing is, like, the only time I'll print from SD or USB connected to my computer is if I'm actively working on a printer, like it's sitting here on my desk and I'm troubleshooting. My favorite thing is to set the printer up with an Octoprint setup, and we sell full kits. So if you guys are looking to get into Octoprint and you don't want to deal with trying to like pick out the correct board and SD card and image and everything, we have a full kit that's ready to go. We do have stock on them. They've been kind of ebbing and flowing because even the Pi boards are now starting to get hard to find. But I've been able to get them in. But we have them as well, and we also have an awesome camera too. So if you want a nice wide angle camera, so you can actually see the whole printer bed, we've got that as well. So, and one thing you don't get if you do it yourself, that you get if you buy the kit, is if you need help, you can literally get help from our technical support. So all the stuff we sell in our shop comes with technical support. So we're very big on that here. But yeah, I do not like running my printers, especially for long prints, off of a computer, because most of the computers have a sleep setting and they don't care if your printer's printing. So if your computer goes to sleep while you're printing, your print's just done. So yeah, whereas if you use a Raspberry Pi, that Raspberry Pi puts it on the network and you can send your G-code files over to it from your computer to your printer. Even if your printer, like all these printers, you guys see I have all these printers. I do not run over and touch these printers to put G-code on them. They're all on the network. And I can't go back. I can't go back to do an SD or USB. It's just, once you go back, it's hard. Let's see, Ellen, before anybody asks, yes, you can technically run multiple printers off of one Raspberry Pi, but I don't recommend it, and neither does Gina, who is the queen that, started Octoprint. I always have one Pi per printer. So, and we do donate money, and we sponsor Octoprint every single month. So if you go to octoprint.org, you'll see our logo right on the front page, because we do support that project, because I like putting my money where my mouth is, which is, we use the software, we sell products with the software. I'm going to back them up. So, let's see. Oh, I see my buddy Steve's in chat, and Mark is in here too, John. Mr. Top at the Waffle, I see I'm important enough for you to watch one of my streams now. You gonna upload a video on your YouTube channel? Actually, this is pretty cool. I need to see. Douglas, did you post your video on did you post your video on
Hey everyone.
Hang on, let's see here. Oh my God, where is it? Doug, you need to send me the video of he integrated Octoprint with Counter-Strike Go. I need to find this here, because it was so freaking cool. We're gonna go on a little fucking segue here. Send it to me again. I can't find it. Yeah, send it to me again. I want to show this off, because this is freaking cool. I can't remember if you sent it to me in a PM or if it was in the group chat. It's in the group chat. It could be gone. Let's see. Send me that, and we're gonna move on to the questions, because I want to show you guys that. It's pretty cool. Kenneth, Oh, wait. Tim Jackson said I missed his question. Hang on. Did I? Oh, shit. Wait, no. It's just down. I didn't get to it yet. I'm sorry. All right. Kenneth Sang is the Mr. Spaghetti Detective guy. I'm glad to see he's watching. We're trying to do some stuff with them with bundling subscriptions, but I've been dealing with a lot of stuff here, and I'm sorry I have to put that on the back burner right now. But he's asking, do you know what's going on with gyres? Are they now merged with mainstream Marlin? There is a 2.0 now. There is now a 2.0 something about an upstream. So I did see in 2.092 that they merged a bunch of gyres LCD improvements for the Ender 3 V2 LCD into that. I want to play with that, so I think I'm going to push out the SVO3 on 2091 until I can play with 2092. I don't like jumping major versions, even though it's a minor version. I don't like jumping versions that have a lot of differences in them until I have some time on them with my machines to make sure that they didn't introduce new bugs. But as far as I know, it looks like Gyres did do a pull request, so all his improvements to the Ender 3 V2 LCD look like they made it into Marlin, along with a bunch of other LCD options for that screen. I think the Marlin UI is on there too. I know Scott was working hard at that. I definitely want to play it. So I have my original Ender 3 V2 LCD and the original board sitting in my test bins back there, so I'm going to put it on my bench and play with it and see what's going on. Okay, so let me see here. I'm gonna download this. Doug sent me the video. Albino Tree is asking, do you know how to stop Peggy from collecting on the nozzle? 1, keep it clean. 2, use a sock, wrap it up. And 3, using a nozzle that's got a coating on it, something like we have like our Easy Flow nozzle, which is a copper plated nozzle, really helps to reduce it. It doesn't completely stop it from sticking, but it helps it fall off if it does get on there and makes it harder to attach in the first place. So, and I think Slice Engineering has like some sort of coating that you can brush onto the nozzle and it makes it less appealing for filament to stick to. All right, let's see. Tim Jackson, right, his question. He says, so my Ender 3 V2Z won't go up all the way. My question is, out of process of an elimination, should I change the motherboard from 422 to 427? No. What do you mean by doesn't go up all the way? Is it a physical issue? Because changing a board, like what does it do when you tell it to go all the way up? Does the motor stall? Because if the motor stalls, it could be a couple of things. It could be too low a VREF. It could be a physical issue with it going up to the top and it binding, meaning, you know, your uprights aren't straight. So they could be, instead of just being upright like this, they could be kind of pitched in or even pitched out. So as the gantry moves up, there's more and more resistance until it just stops. You know, it could be a bunch of different things here. So, yeah, I'm going to show Doug's video in a sec here because it's pretty freaking cool. I wish I had that much free time to integrate Octoprint just for funsies with freaking CSGO, just because, like, why not? Let's just do it. Let's see here. Tim Jackson says it keeps printing, but no filament comes out. I tried everything. It sounds like, okay, so does the extruder motor stop turning? Because if the extruder motor stops turning, then it sounds like you do have a board issue. Those the stock 422 boards on the Ender 3 V2s are known to overheat because those drivers put out a lot of heat. Now, the 427 board does still run warm, but I haven't seen or had reports of those drivers overheating. Like, we sell the 427 board, and we haven't had any reports of them. Raul says, I broke the variable resistor on my Ender 6. I'm assuming you either mean a potentiometer on the board or you're talking about the thermistor. Tim Jackson, so I'm assuming, so you're saying the motor keeps spinning. So if the motor is spinning, then it sounds like you have just a... It sounds like you're getting a jam or a clog. You could even be getting heat creep. If you... I don't know if you change the fan on there, on the hot end, or if your fan's going out, which is not uncommon with Creality's printers. Their fans, like... They just don't last. They use really crappy, cheap fans. There's a reason we sell hundreds and hundreds of replacement fans every single month. Maybe I should start selling Creality's fans. It'd be a good recurring revenue stream. Like, people having to come back and buy fans every 3 or 4 months. Like, I feel like I'm shooting myself in the foot by selling the ones that last for years instead of months. I don't know if Raul's still in here, but oh, I'm talking about the variable resistor for changing the VRF on one of the drivers. Yeah, you're probably not going to be able to replace that easily. I would just buy a new board. Like, even I wouldn't even try to do that. I could do it. It's not impossible, but you're dealing with surface mount stuff, and I don't know what the stock values are. You could probably determine it by removing one that's not broken. They should all be the same. But you would have... That's a potentiometer. Is the technical term. So, but yeah, the variable resistor potentiometer, tomato. But yeah, I don't know the value that it would be. You would have to measure it, another one that's not broken, to determine what those values are, and then order one and make sure you get the same size footprint. You having fun back there? Look at that face. All right. So I'm looking here. Oh, chat jumped. Where are we at? I'm coming up to PRR Super Chat. I'm sorry I didn't get that. Do you guys think I should answer Super Chats first before everything else? I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't like to play too many favorites. So G Funny Money says, if an easy ABL light remains red no matter which way you turn the screw, is it a goner? I'm assuming there's nothing underneath the tip, but yeah, if the light's staying hard red, it could be a couple of things. It could be either an internal break in the cable, if things weren't secured correctly, or if it got damaged. Maybe I would double check all the connections, reseat everything, because I do believe if the black and the blue wires are contacting each other, then the red light's going to stay on. But either way, if you have the Easy ABL Pro, and your sensor, even if you're out of warranty, if your sensor is bad, contact their support guys and they can set you up with a discounted replacement of just the sensor, so you don't have to buy a whole new kit. So let's see. Joseph says, I bought a 2-tree Sapphire as a project. Yeah, that would be a project. My first foray into Core XY. I've upgraded board to an Octopus or Spider. Can use the Easy ABL. So the Easy ABL is a bed leveling sensor kit that we sell, and it functions like a normally open end stop switch. So you can theoretically use it on any 3D printer board as long as you are able to do the firmware configuration on it. So we do have information in our help center on using it with a Duet board, or Duet firmware and Duet boards, with Marlin in general. Clipper's not that hard, but basically all you need to know is that it functions like a normally open end stop. So if you keep that in mind when you're running through whatever firmware you're using, they'll usually tell you, here's how to set up auto bed leveling for a normally open logic sensor. So I believe BL Touch is normally closed logic. Last time I checked, I know it's inverse of ours, so yeah, it's normally closed. Basically what that means is if the sensor's not detecting anything, the two connections are open. As soon as it's detecting something, it closes the connection and completes the circuit. So yeah, you can use the Easy ABL on whatever. The only thing is, like, our tech support, will help you as best they can. But like when we do the technical support, it's heavily limited to the firmware that we put out, because we've had people where they'll buy our $60 bed leveling kit and then expect us to spend 10 hours with them sorting out all their firmware setup for their custom printers. And I'll just be honest with you guys, like, we can't do that. But we do have the communities too set up. We've got our Discord server and our Facebook group. So if you are doing a custom project and you need help, you can always post in there. Those are free for anybody to use. And we do have paid support too. So our guys, Tor right now is working on getting familiar with Clipper, because he is a masochist for some reason. I think he's playing with an Octopus right now. And yeah, I'm still heavy onto Marlin. I do want to start playing with Clipper. Because it does intrigue me. I just, have life getting in the way. Let's see here. So PRR, he says, I keep getting under extrusion on the outside of my supports only. I have no idea how to fix it. Help. So I feel like I've had this issue before, and I like where it's kind of sparse where it starts the extrusion. I feel like I wish you would post a picture. So if in the bottom of the description for this video, there is a link to our Discord server, and we do have a live streams channel. So if you guys are asking questions where it's like, oh, I'm having under extrusion or that kind of stuff, post a picture in there because YouTube will not let you do it. But I have that up on here, and I can also pull it up and share with you guys so people can see what you're saying. So post a picture, and I'd be glad to take a look at it and see. But if you're getting under extrusion on the outsides, I'd recommend checking your slicer settings to see if it's retracting too much before it goes to print the supports. I would also maybe lower your retraction and see if the issue is that it's retracting too much and your filament's getting hung up in the heat break area, and it just needs extra force to come through. So basically there's a delay between it actually getting to the nozzle to start extruding because it's being pulled back too far. But yeah, post a question in chat. I'd be glad to take a look at it. John Miracle, do you recommend getting silicone or solid bed mounts after fitting a BL Touch on an Ender 3 V2? I've heard people, like, I don't use the silicone mounts. We sell solid bed mounts, so I use the ones we sell. I'm a big fan of solid mounting the beds if you have an auto bed leveling probe on it, whether it's a BL Touch or Easy ABL or, any other one, because it removes that extra slop in the bed. Now, one of the other things you can do, like, which is what I did on this Soval, is because it still has the stock springs on it, I just tighten them down all the way, and then obviously make sure your nozzle can get all the way down there, because some printers, if you tighten the screws down or the knobs all the way to compress the springs so they don't move as much, the Z might bottom out on the mounts before it can actually get the nozzle on the bed, so keep that in mind. But I definitely highly recommend solid mounting the bed. I have heard some people say they really like the silicone ones, but my whole thing is if I have an ABL system, then I'm just going to solid mount the bed because the ABL system will take care of it. Yeah, so, man, it's already 3:20. Damn. Let's see. Am I going to do a live stream on the Ender 2 Pro? Yeah, I'm going to get that scheduled tomorrow at the latest. So I want to I'm really curious about this because I really like the Ender 3 or the Ender 2 when it came out. It was such a cute little printer. I have a thing, I feel like I've said this before, I like tiny machines. Like, I like small printers for some reason. I also like just putting a ton of upgrades on them, like, more than the printer actually costs. I don't know why. It's this weird obsession that I have, and I just like pimping them out. I think it's because, like, in terms of, like, bringing them places, like, it's cool because you can grab them and they're easily movable. Yeah, so John, which he's a YouTube member, so I appreciate that. He said he needs a printed bracket that is somewhat flexible so it opens and closes to a latch. Dominic, I will answer your question. I just realized I skipped your... I'm sorry, Dominic. I need a printed bracket that is somewhat flexible so it opens and closes to a latch. I've seen people design things that have an accordion-type cutout to make it flexible without breaking. How thick or thin do I need to make sessions so that flexibility is achieved? That's a good question, and I'll show you. This is a good example photo so you guys can see what he's talking about here. So he's got this latch here, and this is the kind of accordion thing. I don't have an answer for you should make it this thick. If I was doing it, I'd probably start out, depending on how much weight it needs to hold, maybe start out like 0.3, 0.4 millimeters and see how that goes. I mean, the awesome part about this technology that we have is you can rapidly try this out over and over. And a little thing I would do is I wouldn't print the whole thing. I would print just just that section so you can get an idea of how much it flexes. So take that section and just print just that little section. Why are you being needy? Hi. And then play with it. So, like, I would probably use for something like that, if you're not going to go flexible filament, I'd probably go something like PETG or ABS. You could probably do in PLA, but PLA is very brittle and stiff. It can be flexible in certain thicknesses, but if you're going to be putting, like, some kind of weight on it and stuff, I'd probably go PETG or ABS, or like Tor said, like a harder TPU even. TPU might be difficult. I am petting my dog's head right now. Here's his butt. Come on. Come on. Come on. I know you want to come in my lap. Come on. Up. There we go. Come here. So, anyways, yeah, this is my puppy. He's only 10 months old, but we're like 96 pounds. Roar. All right, let's see. I'm gonna... What the... You okay? What the hell was that? Tommy O, do I use Octo Farm? We used to, but it kept causing problems with the pies hanging up because of how much it was pulling them. And we literally just have like basically a wiki page that has a table in it with the printer's name, IP address, and a link to its Octoprint URL. Joe said, I put gyres on my latest gyres on my new Ender 3 V2, had serious issues, not a single good print. Put generic Marlin back on, no issues. Okay, that's good to know. Let's see. I'm going to kind of zip through and see what questions are because we got to wrap things up here soon. I am going to, let's see. Michael said, I modified the OEM mount for the Sunlight S8 to work with that shorter, wider red hot end. If you want it for our poor S8 users that want to use Easy ABL Pro, yeah, send it to send it to our support team. They'll get it over to me. Let's see. I'm checking to see here. So Derek, I appreciate the tip. Derek says the Z stepper motors on a Prusa Colonna built from scratch using SGN LV2 TMC 2209 overheat even when I'm using lower current. What am I doing wrong? So here's the thing. I had a weird issue like this with multiple TMC 2208 and 2209 drivers. I thought it was the drivers. It wasn't. Certain stepper motors just don't behave well, and they're usually ones that have a higher coil resistance. And this is just anecdotal, my one instance of this happening. So don't take this as gospel, but I'm just giving you my experience because I have an AM8 in the enclosure behind me, and that had these weird motors I got off eBay years ago that were like pulled out of a laser printer. They were NEMA 17 steppers, but they had, I think, like 23 ohms of coil resistance, whereas most of the ones I've seen coming on 3D printers are like anywhere from like 2 to 5. And no matter what I did, no matter what VREFs I set, no matter what cables I used, settings I changed, they always ran too hot and they would lose steps. I changed them out for this just generic stepper motors we sell. Like we sell just generic, standard size stepper motors. We carry pancake size and regular size. I swapped them out for the ones we have. Nothing else changed. Everything started working fine and they stopped overheating. So certain motors I've noticed just don't play well with the TMC drivers. I remember having issues on the 2100s, the old TMC 2100s when those first came out. I had issues with those running too hot on those same motors. So you just got to test it out. I would probably swap the motors out because I kind of did that as a last ditch effort on my machine and everything's been fine. I thought I was having issues like mechanically with the printer itself, like binding up at random intervals, and it ended up just being the motors I had just were not a good match for the drivers. And it could just be too that my motors were older and they were worn out, or they just didn't like to play nice with the trinamics. So, yeah. What's the approximate service life of an auto bed leveling sensor? I mean, I have some here that are 2 or 3 years old. I don't think it's unrealistic to expect to get, at least 1-2 years out of it. The main thing with prolonging the life of specifically our Easy ABLs is making sure that you're securing the cable and leaving strain relief, because I would say the probably number one reason for sensor failure that we've seen is not the sensors dying themselves, but when people mount them on the printer, they don't leave slack like we show in the guide on the cable, and then what happens is as you're printing, the cable is moving over and over again, creating a pinch point, and it breaks the wires internally, and then the sensor stops working. So, you know, I mean, we do use really good quality sensors. About half the cost that you pay for on the kit is literally just for the sensor, not even the control board. So they're very good quality sensors, but, you know, regardless of how good quality they are and how, you know, nice of wire we're using, because it's all shielded and it does have strain relief built in, if you mount it in a place where it's not going to, where it's going to be exposed to strain over and over again because your print head's moving, it's going to fail, you know, whether it's our sensor or someone else's. So, last of spring, what's a good bed temperature for reheating a slice of pizza? I'd probably go like 80 or 90 C, maybe about 5 or 6 minutes. You'd probably be best if you put like some sort of like little cover over it, maybe take the plate and flip it over on top of it to kind of, you know, keep it wrapped up. Let's see. Oh, no. Jeremy, do you know when more easy boards are coming in? Hopefully we should be getting some in, you know, by the end of the month. So literally in a couple of days, I'm going to ping our engineer who runs the production on that and see where we're at. But we do have more in addition to the pre-orders that were sold being manufactured as well. So, hopefully soon we have chips to make them. I have to source more chips. Hopefully we'll find them, but that's a whole nother rant for another day, and this stream is almost over. Marcel is asking, what would you recommend to replace the board on the KP3 to get it working again? You don't have the Robin in stock. Yeah, we don't have the Robin. Personally, if I was going to replace the board on my KP3, I would probably see if I could just get the factory board. You can probably find the Robin on AliExpress or Amazon or eBay for 20 or 30 bucks. They're not terrible boards. They aren't ones that would be my first pick if I was picking a control board for a custom build, but you know, you get what you pay for. If I was replacing it with something else, the thing is that has a touchscreen and that touchscreen is tied to that board. I would probably go with something like, you know, like one of the cheaper Creality boards and a screen, and then design something to mount it, you know, be able to print it. I know you have multiple printers, so I know you can print brackets. But you can throw any board in the printer. It's just, do you want to be able, how much work do you want to do, and do you know how to do the firmware setup? You know, personally, if I have a KP3 sitting up here on my shelf that I use, if its stock board died, I'd probably just get another of the stock boards just because I don't feel like going through changing it all out. You know what I mean? So, Coffeeology says, would Loctite on a bolt on an Ender 3 that keeps getting loose be a bad idea? No, I don't think it would be. What is it? Is it the red or the blue that's impossible to get off? I think the red is the one that's hard to get off. I would probably use the blue if that's the one that's, you know, easier to get off but still holds stuff. Justin, do I still have the resin printer? I have some resin printers. I will send you a message after I check my email. I'm sorry that like I've been kind of flaky. There's just a lot of stuff going on the back end here, and you know, in my personal life that has been distracting me. So I'm sorry that I'm not in tip-top shape right now. All right, I'm gonna write it. Hang on, I gotta write a note down for resin printers. Otherwise, I'm gonna forget. All right, let me put it right on my monitor here so I don't forget. Because I know there was one guy that emailed me, and I gave a wash and cure station and a printer to one of my employees because he was interested in it. And I was like, you know what, just take it. Let me see. Where are we at? We do need to wrap things up here, so I'm going to see if there's any quick questions, and then we'll do the ceremonial dingo stick. Is he gonna pop up? Nope, he's still laying down. Yeah, SKL, what do you think of the tool changers like the Exchange Mutant and the Hermit Crab? I think they're cool. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely am not a big fan of Wham Bam stuff, so I probably wouldn't buy any of theirs. Plus, theirs looks like pretty jank. It's like all plastic. I'd probably go with something metal, but it's cool. I wouldn't use it, to be completely honest with you guys. Like, I have multiple printers set up with different tool heads, so I don't really swap stuff out, but I could see the appeal if, you know, you either can't afford multiple printers, you don't have room. you know, that's one thing. So, but I think it's cool. I would go with, if you guys are looking for like tool changer, tool head, it's not like it's a tool head changing system where you can just like kind of swap things in and out. I'd probably go with something that's got a metal backing and not something that's, you know, plastic. Now, full disclosure, I haven't messed with the Wham Bam option, but in general, I just don't like that company. So, it has nothing to do with them being a competitor. It's just sketchy business practices in the past. But that's a story for another day. All right. I'm trying to see if there's any other quick questions here before I wrap this up. Red is the hard Loctite. Okay, yeah, I thought. So, yeah, purple or blue is a good one. Dominic, oh my God. Dominic, I will answer your question. I appreciate it. I know you're a good loyal viewer here. So Dominic says, when decreasing line height for better detail, should I also decrease line width? I'm assuming you mean your layer height. Is that correct? Your layer height? I'm assuming you mean layer height. Are you there? Dominic, paging Dominic. I know there's a stream delay, but it shouldn't be that much. Dominic, are you there? Yeah, I'm just gonna assume he's talking about layer height, and the answer would be no. I wouldn't decrease the line width. So if that's the question, if you're talking about decreasing your layer height so you get more detail, that I wouldn't decrease the line width. It's really not going to matter. The only time I would decrease the line width, like your extrusion width, is if you're also trying to get more detail on the top of the print or the bottom of the print. But if you're only caring about the increasing the detail in the Z direction, then no, I wouldn't mess with it. So he's there. All right. I got through a lot of the questions. I am liking doing this once a week because I feel like when we're doing it 2 times a week, 1, it's a lot more work for me. 2, it's I feel like we get to a point where there's not many people asking stuff. Yeah, Justin, I'll send you a message on Discord, because the one guy that I messaged saying that I had, you know, some of the machines here, he didn't get back to me, so you snooze, you lose. I'll let you know what I have here. But anyways, what was I going to do? Oh, let's do a giveaway here before you guys all disappear. Make sure you guys enter the main giveaway, but I'm just doing like, I don't know, $20 gift card. How's that sound? I need to look at what our increments are for the gift cards, because I can't remember. 25. So $25 gift card to the shop. Let me fire up Nightbot here. Nightbot. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a keyword. And I'm going to give you guys, you're a channel member, I'm giving you guys some extra luck because I appreciate the support. What are we going to make it? Let's just make it Remo. Make it simple. Remo. R-E-M-O, which is my big dummy here. And while you guys are entering that, I'm going to give him his dingo stick. You fat ass. This dog, like, only moves fast. The hell just beat? Oh, that was him whining. It was him whining. Come here. You gotta go over this way. Can you sit? Shake. Shake. Can we speak? That's a whiny. Oh, there you go. Good boy. Good boy. All right. Let's see. Oh, hit me up, Red Light. I'll hit you up too. Anyways, let's see who wins the $25 gift card. And if you guys win, whoever wins, I will send you the email to get the details so I can send it to you. All right, I'm waiting to see. There's still a couple more entries coming in, and I'm gonna roll it right about now. Vickers, and you're a channel member. Vickers, I'm glad you won it. I know you're a regular here, and I also appreciate that you are a channel member. So, all right, Vickers, all you need to do is email, like, send me like a screenshot of, like, you know, your Google thing showing that it's you, and I will get you a $25 gift card sent out in a couple hours. So just streams. I'm typing out right now. I can't type and talk at the same time. Go ahead and send an email to streams@th3dstu.com. Be on the lookout. I will schedule the Ender 3 or Ender 2 Pro for sometime Friday. So keep an eye out for that. If you guys want to get notifications when we go live, look in the video description. There's a link to sign up for dedicated notifications. So I set emails to go out with our marketing system for just YouTube videos, new streams, upcoming streams, new videos, because YouTube notifications suck. Those will get to you. So if you guys want to get notified when we go live and we post new content on the channel, that's all that email list is for. You will not get spammed with anything else, just YouTube stuff. Go ahead and sign up. It costs you nothing, and the emails go out 30 minutes before live streams start. And we also send out emails when we post new content to the channel. So you no longer have to be at the mercy of YouTube and their shitty notification system. So anyways, I didn't get some water, need to use the restroom, and I had some fun answering you guys' questions. I will see you guys on the next one. These are usually at Wednesdays at 2 p.m. So next week will be pushed back as well. But once my life stops screwing me every which way, my goal is to have them at 2 o'clock. But anyways, I will talk to you guys later, and as always, happy printing. I lied. I'm back. I totally forgot that I forgot to show off Doug's CSGO thing. So if you guys are still here. All right, I'm going to show this off. Where is it? Main monitor. Here we go. So I totally forgot about this because don't remind me. He said, I totally missed when he did the CSGO stuff since someone showed up at my door. So check this out. I don't know if there's audio, but I'm going to unmute my speakers and see. Hang on. All right, let's play.
All right, so this is a first look at the what I call completed CSGO Octoprint printer. Right now, nothing is working. Says we must select a file. So how this functions is there is a live Octoprint instance running on the network, and then controlled by a custom C# app. There is a in-between layer between CS and Octoprint. So that app is right here. And it's just going to run in the background. So it ends up listening to Counter-Strike and listening to Octoprint. And all it does is forward the messages between the two, kind of like an abstract layer. Counter-Strike does all of the processing of the Octoprint commands itself using its scripting language. So this app is as minimal as possible just to facilitate communication between the two platforms. But it is important to know that this is talking to a real Octoprint instance. If we reload or restart the map, the app will actually start working. And now we have a file list generated over here. So this is the file list that's actually on Octoprint, and we can select these. So I can select that file for printing, and if I go to Octoprint, and I can just add a new file here. So I'm just going to add a new file, .gcode, to the printer. And if I restart the map again, after the app queries Octoprint, we have a new file here up at the top. And then, you know, if we also delete new file and then restart the game, next time the app talks to Octoprint, it's gone now. So we have, it's kind of setting up, it does some setup in the background, and then we start to get our temperatures. So that is the current temperature that the Octoprint instance is reporting. Right now I'm using a virtual printer for testing purposes. If we kick the temperature up to say 200, we can see that starts to climb. And conversely, same for the bed temp as well. So we don't need to interact with Octoprint to get something to work. So we can come over here and select a print and let it print. So we can select the Benchy. These files are just from regular 3D printers. Like this is a file from my CR10. I can select that. And actually we'll go with the Benchy. And then you hit this button to start printing. So it will do a little setup. And then if you'll notice, Octoprint is actually printing now, CSGO Benchy.g code. The printer does have to heat up, quote unquote. And then after a few moments, we start to get the G code. And then the printer starts to print.
That's so freaking
So
cool.
this is running live off of the information that Octoprint is feeding it. So if I look at the G code view over here, we see that they're pretty in sync with each other. The only kind of edge case situation here is that the virtual printer does run much faster than a real printer because it does not have to deal with acceleration or anything like that. So it is possible for these two to become somewhat out of sync in the sense that Octoprint will be ahead of the CSGO printer. This go-between app, we can see it's just spewing a bunch of nonsense right now. But if we pause that output, we can see that it has received, sequence 2105, 0607, and it's actually keeping up right now, and it is forwarding those to CSGO. So there we go. It just goes to that second layer. If you interact or pause that console app, it does do this sometimes. So that won't happen as long as I don't mess with the application. So you can see a history of the G-code commands that have been pushed to the printer.
Who thinks
with how
Doug
many
has too much
lines are
time on his
actually
hands?
being drawn. When there's an empty travel, we don't draw a line for it, as you normally wouldn't. We also have the current Z height of the quote-unquote printer. So if we kind of fly down below, you can see that it is printing on that vertical axis. So to show that this does work with other things, like I said, there is that CR10 file. So I'm going to cancel this just inside of Octoprint. And then to clear the bed, you unfortunately have to reload CSGO or the map. That is something that I cannot work around due to how we're rendering those lines. So it'll take a sec, and then once we get the temperatures on the bed, we're pretty much good to go. We can come in here and do the CR10 shade. When I was living in the rental house, I needed a shade for a lamp in the room, so I ended up just printing one. And this is just if we go to my 3D printing sliced files, so we can go to my sliced files folder over here. It's going to show up over in the corner, but the file that's actually printing shade, so CR10 shade, it's right here. It's 4 megs, and this is all it is. But it is a base mode print, which this does support, so we can see that the Z height is slowly incrementing as it moves up. So the base mode prints do work, which is pretty cool. And you can just see that drawing lines slowly. And it is eventually going to finish. The super cool thing is that just like a real printer, this takes a while to print. So I'm also going to cancel this print. And if we reload the map, we are also able to start prints inside of Octoprint as well. So right now it says, let me end warm up. So preparing, we'll get the file list, and then there we go, not printing. So I can come into Octoprint and there's a quick file that is inaccurately named long test, but now we're printing, and this is just a quick little test that I wrote, and you can see the finished sequence too for when it is done printing. And then you end up with a little print that will be in sync with Octoprint. So this is just a preliminary look. Just kind of wanted to showcase this, show it to some people before I make a full video on it. So
Yeah, Doug has too much time on his hands, so that's pretty cool. Sorry, I forgot about that until after we wrapped up the stream, but I'm actually gonna go this time because I have had to use the bathroom since like 3:25. So I'll talk to you guys later, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.